want to talk about is when you tie a jig, are you thinking about the long term of how that jig is going to hold together? I'm talking about durability. I know you see me sometimes in my videos, you'll see me do things that other jig tires don't do. And one to me, the most important ones is I've got that layer of Sally Hansen's on there. I know a lot of people don't really, you see it, you see this step get skipped. And I think what bothers a lot of people about this is that smell when you're done tying your jigs up. Way back when I first started tying jigs, I would take that hook and I would put a layer of Sally Hansen's on there. Then I'd start wrapping my thread. Then I'd get my tail material in there. And then I would start that Chanel body, and then I would put just a little bit more Sally Hansen's on there, and then go ahead and wrap that Chanel up. Now, I still do the first layer of Sally Hansen's. I don't do that second layer anymore, because what I got to noticing when I was tying those jigs, as you were wrapping that material on, and you're using that 210 denier or whatever thread you're using, you'll see that Sally Hansen's start to push up through those threads. And when you start laying that body material down your Chanel, it would actually push up in there, and you had that base on there. So the second coat of Sally Hansen's, I kind of deemed as not really necessary, and that first layer is. This jig right here is proof of that. Also the same way with the UV resin. The UV resin in the light holds up over time. I was at the Grizzly Jig Expo down in Crothersville, Missouri yesterday, Friday, February 2nd. I was down there and ran into one of my pro staff guys, Amos Livingston, and he pulled out of his pocket this jig. And he said, man, I was hoping I was going to run into you down there. I want to talk to you about this jig. He said, I want, some more tied up. This jig by itself has gone from Truman Lake in Missouri clear down to the lakes of Mississippi. This jig right here by itself has caught over 250 crappie. The tail's beat up. It's nasty looking. It's rough looking. You can tell it's been in muddy water. It has taken a beating, and it's still going. The eyes are still on. I can still feel the UV resin in that neck. If there is no other way to prove to you that the UV resin does work, this jig right here is it. Over 250 crappie on that jig. This one jig has also won a few tournaments. It's put fish in the boat. It's still together. Paint's still on the head. Eyes are still on. And like I said, if you could feel inside that neck, you could feel that roughness from that UV resin where it hardens up and cures. The UV resin I don't use only just to seal the eyes on, but it's also sealing the thread on. It's also sealing the Chanel to the head. It is really, other than the Sally Hansen's, it's the foundation to a durable crappie jig. I don't want to say I'm going to guarantee it, because depending on what you're fishing and how you're fishing, if you're casting that jig and you're throwing it up in rocks and it's hitting the bottom, you're bouncing off bridge pillars, you're shooting it up underneath docks, there's a chance that eventually over time that paint's going to come off and those eyes are going to come off. I don't know if you could buy a jig head where the paint will never come off of it. I don't think there's very many people that are going to guarantee that the paint will stay on that head. But what I'll guarantee is that using that UV resin, you've got more of a chance of it all staying on versus just putting it in a toaster oven and getting it warm and heating it back up and harden it. 250 crappie on one jig. And I took it with me, as a display crappie jig, but Amos will get this jig back, and we will keep up with this jig through the tournament season. I will get a hold of him, and we will talk about this jig, how it's staying together. Let me know your experiences with the UV resin. Have you had a jig that's gone over 250, 500, 1,000 fish? Send me a comment. Let me know. Like this video if you agree that your jig should last over 1,000 fish, or you expect it to wear out over time and the paint to come off of it. Let me know that. I need to know, just for my own how I'm going to tie them and what I'm going to do with them, on what to do with these jigs to keep them durable and make them last. Like I said, I think I've come up with kind of a good winning combination, and I'm hoping I've taught y'all that through these videos. Right there. That is awesome. How many crappie. I wish he would have kept track of how many pounds of crappie this jig's caught, but I know it's won him a tournament. Two, a couple pretty close up top 10 finishes with that jig right there. Send him a message. Let him know about it. Get a hold of him on Facebook. Say, hey, I seen that jig Eric Massey's tied for you. That's awesome. But dude, let me know. Do you have a record on how many fish one jig's caught? I would love to hear that. Like, share, subscribe, hit that thumbs up. That's what keeps the channel going.